All right, so we can call to order our work session. First item, we do have announcements or presentations. I see one on the agenda. I will remind folks we have 10 minutes for this. That falls underneath the, don't have any fancy rules to read about that, but our guiding policies that the council operates under says total of 10 minutes. We'll try to keep it to that amount of time, but it will be for the folks that want to present to come up and give their presentation. We may have a few questions from the council, and then we'll move on from that. So the item is John Ossolet. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly or not, John. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. Regarding potential future annexation requests.
Thank you very much. I don't know if this works or not. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Ossolet, and I'm representing a group of residents and homeowners from the North Lake, North Briarcliff area, and we are petitioning for annexation into the city of Chamblee. This area is comprised of 4 voting precincts that overwhelmingly voted for cityhood by a margin of 63% during the La Vista Hills cityhood movement, and also the supporters were overwhelmingly supported annexation. We're requesting a resolution from the Chamblee City Council that supports our efforts to create local legislation for a referendum to approve annexation. Ms. Rock, you could change that for me. Good. Thank you. The map that I had sent to Mr. Walker that you, the council has probably seen, is a little different than this one. We realized that when we created the map, we were creating an island which by law is not permissible. And the island is just west of 85, as you can see that, which is bordering Chamblee and Doraville. So we added that in out of an abundance of caution to make sure that we were complying with the law. The area footprint consists of approximately 12,700 residents in the North Lake Mall, North Briarcliff area. It's contained within the borders of Interstate 85 to the west, Shallowford Road to the south, connecting to Briarcliff and La Vista, and then Interstate I-285 to the east and to the north. It also encompasses an unincorporated area, as I mentioned, of I-85 off Chamblee Tucker Road, just to the west, top end of there. And that annexation, of course, would make it illegal to create an island. So therefore, we included it in a footprint. So my apologies, you did not receive this particular map before. We just got this one done 2 days ago. The total area has a combined appraised value of $1.5 billion with an assessed valuation of approximately $566 million. Why do we want to be in Chamblee? With the city of Chamblee, we have an opportunity to grow the value of our community and receive the level of services that we currently lack from being in unincorporated DeKalb County. Those services include more localized representation and responsible government, the delivery of vital services, police, a dedicated 911 call center, parks and recreation, permitting, zoning, licensing, economic development, and of course public works, all of which are delivered with the highest efficiency and provide great value to the residents. There are numerous economic development opportunities as well that would generate added value to the area and generate increased tax revenue. And being part of the city of Chamblee would create a sense of place and community by being part of a diverse resident population with vibrant neighborhoods and bustling commercial areas. So you ask, what do our neighborhoods across the freeway have to offer the residents here in Chamblee? We're very involved in committed citizenry who are very active in community service and community service oriented. We have a strong residential tax base. It would further increase, by including this area, would further increase the city's posture and influence within Metro Atlanta and regionally, which could benefit the city as it pertains to state and federal grants and programs. The regional transportation gateway of I-85 and 285 corridor would also increase the city's level of influence within Metro Atlanta and the Atlanta Regional Commission, providing more coordinated regional opportunities for the area. It would include Atlanta campus of Mercer University inside the city boundaries, a highly regarded private university that offers a wide range of undergraduate, graduate, and professional degree programs. We could contribute excellent economic development opportunities that fit into Chamblee's 10-year economic development strategic plan, with an abundance of underutilized and underdeveloped commercial and industrial real estate. And finally, it would provide an economy of scale with fixed asset costs that would be shared over a greater number of citizens, potentially driving down the cost of services. It's shorter than 10 minutes, but I'm sure you appreciate that. Everybody probably does.
That's great. Are you finished with the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right, we'll see if there's some questions. I'm going to ask the first one. So I'm glad you brought the issue of the island, because looking at your previous map, I looked at it and saw an island that wasn't what y'all have been since colored in, but was to the east there of 285 and north of Tucker. So if you go back to your map, it looks to me, and maybe I'm not looking at this right, and I would say I haven't looked at it a whole lot, but it looks like you would then create an island of an area that's unincorporated, that's north of Tucker, then would be east of the Chamblee border if this were to become, if your map were to happen, and south of Doraville. And then, on the, I guess the northeast side of that, you've got the Gwinnett line. So I guess the question is, does the Tucker line it goes all the way over to Gwinnett County line, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. So that would just be my question, as to whether or not that creates an island there. I think that would be a concern, because that's something you have to look at with your map.
Okay.
And that would be that's just something I wanted to point out to you. Any questions from the council?
You talking about right here?
No, ma'am. I'm talking about if you could, so that you
It's
know.
kind of out of the
Talking about
area.
right up in there.
Oh, okay.
So north of Tucker. So this is Tucker down here.
Big Island.
Big Island.
Jumbo
it's,
Island.
It's Oahu, or
Yeah.
I don't know what's the Big Island in Hawaii. I don't know. I've never
Right there.
I've never had the opportunity to go to Hawaii, so I don't know the islands. But when I do, I'll know then, right?
You'll never forget it.
So you know where that is now, Leslie?
Yes, I see exactly
Okay.
what you're talking
Did the
about.
council have any questions?
As you work through this process, I would challenge you to really try and quantify the tangible benefits to current residents versus some of the catastrophic benefits as you see them, because I think that's something that's going to be very important to us in considering.
Of course.
What does it do, and how would this benefit our current constituents and current residents of Chamblee?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Absolutely.
Tom, you had something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, are you gonna, is it your intentions to do something here in the near term, or is this a planting of the seed? Are you gonna take the year to do studies both over where you are and possibly over in the current area? Like, what is your actual plan?
Well, we plan on reaching out to citizens here in Chamblee, and we've got friends. Many of us have friends and neighbors that have moved here, and kind of getting the feel. I know that there's, with the history of Chamblee's annexation, I recall as each successive annexation came in, there were concerns that the residents had. They were concerned about delivery of services and how that's going to affect the cost of services for them. So, that obviously will play itself out. That will be determined rather quickly whether it's a feasible proposition for the residents and for the city. But the plan is to reach out to citizens in Chamblee, as we're also reaching out and working on the process. We'd like to have a vote, have it on a referendum sometime in this year in November, if it's possible. The concern that we have is, in another reason, we did another map. This is the third or fourth iteration. Is Chamblee is rapidly taking the commercial district in North Lake And they've not been very shy about it.
You said Chamblee.
I'm sorry, in Tucker. Tucker has been annexing properties in the North Lake area, and you can see there's actually another one that has not been taken out that recently occurred. There's a Shell station, but you see the bottom right corner, the black line that kind of goes on top of that pink section, which was a very large office complex that was recently annexed in. So that's the concern, because without the North Lake commercial property, quite frankly, it's not viable for a city, but it certainly, may, be detrimental to, a city like Chamblee taking on the residential without that commercial component.
We're gonna run out of time here pretty quickly. Brian, did you have a question?
So, yeah, I got a couple questions. So when was your group formed?
I beg your pardon?
When was your group formed originally?
We started to work on this late December, early January. With the last annexation attempt, which was on the heels of the vote, the original organizers of La Vista Hills didn't really have, they didn't have any interest of restarting this process. I mean, they've worked on that for 2 years, and so, as a grassroots group of residents, we really saw the encroachment of Tucker into North Lake, and we realized we had to get something in place. We really needed to, either annex in or remain unincorporated, because there's really no other options. And Chamblee, like we mentioned last year, I was very much in support of being annexed into Chamblee because of the services, because of the economic development opportunities, which was what we, for me as a resident, what I was looking at as a city, those opportunities to exploit those services. So, we think we have a tremendous amount to offer the city of Chamblee and its residents. To be honest with you, I don't know the exact time frame. We haven't set anything out, but we would like to, as we're working on building a consensus among residents of Tucker, and working on working with Representative Holcomb and getting town hall meetings together in our neck of the woods, that we would hopefully get this, be able to have a vote by November.
So I guess the question was, or the question that's going to come up is, this measure, we passed on this last year.
Right.
In February, March. And the entire year went by and nobody brought up annexation. And then January rolls around and we're back in annexation. So my question is what, there was nobody in your group or nobody that saw the need to have a discussion or talk about this throughout the course of last year?
Well, no, I think that there was plenty of discussion, but there wasn't anybody that was willing to
Lead the charge?
Yeah, to lead the charge and to get the ball rolling. So, I don't know if you recall, you probably recall the effort it was a grand effort to get, it was probably a 2 or 3 year effort that they started to get to the point of the vote and then the subsequent annexation request. So, unfortunately, it would have been nice to have some extra time to really have somebody step up and get this taken care of, but.
So has your group had any discussions with Doraville or Tucker, with this little island and others?
We have not. That little island was brought to my attention in the middle of this week, and that's when we realized that we had to incorporate that, because that was not in the original map. But we do have plans to discuss further with Doraville and Tucker.
So you are amenable to sitting down with the Tri-Cities and trying to work something out?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks, Brian. John was
Just real quick, I mean, you're saying all the right things, that you want to engage our community and you want to have the studies done and all that, but you're not, I think you're ignoring the calendar. I mean, you can't do all of that in the time frame in which, to get it on this year's ballot. I mean, it's just I don't, somebody may disagree with me, but I just don't see you having all these meetings and convincing our city current members or current citizens that, in this time frame. I mean, it's March or something like that, I believe is when the crossover date is, or whatever it has to happen. So, I mean, I think you're too late for this year, in my honest opinion.
Okay, Leslie, do you have a question?
Well, I do have a question, because I'm not as well schooled as maybe other people are on this issue. If we were to pass a resolution in support of this, in support of proceeding, does it necessarily mean that if we don't get the list of 10 questions answered, that we still have to proceed with it? Like, does this make sense financially? Can we work it out with the Tri-Cities and things like that? I mean, can
So
can
let
this
me
be-
add to that. This body doesn't have to do anything. They can go straight to the General Assembly legislators and move forward with it without asking this body any permission whatsoever. All right, but our state representatives don't do that. Right? They've always asked us and asked me to bring them in the past when we've had our previous annexations to bring them a resolution stating that, hey, yes, in fact, the city council wants to see this move forward. So that would be the case. Once if y'all decided to, like say you decide to pass, that happened last year and nothing happens, or decide you want to pass a resolution saying, in fact, that if these things are met, then yes, you'd be in favor of seeing move forward. It's up to them then with the, again, with I guess the blessing of this group, if that was what you so chose, to go talk with the General Assembly about that. I agree with John Mesa that the timing is just really, really short. I don't think that if it's local legislation, it means it has to hit by crossover day, but regardless, it's still just really short. And I have not had any conversations, and I don't know if anybody on the council's had any conversations with anybody in the General Assembly about this. I don't know what their appetite is. I don't know what their calendar looks like as far as what they have, what's before them. I unfortunately missed the Cities Day down there because I had another engagement this year. And so I missed going down and just saying hello to the folks in our delegation this particular year. So I just don't know. But yeah, sure, go ahead.
I mean, do you want to ask?
Oh, do you have an answer? I mean, have you spoken with them?
Scott?
Oh, Scott's here. Hi, Scott, I didn't see you come in. Where are you?
He's back.
Oh, hey, welcome, Scott. Brian Mock just put you on the spot.
Right under the bus, Scott. Right.
Well, and actually, we definitely are running out of time. I want to make sure, we've run out of time. So I guess our rules say that with consent of the council, we can continue to add more time. So unless anybody wants to stop, we'll ask some other questions.
Sure. Answer the
Yeah,
timing?
please, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. In terms of the timing, it is definitely, as you mentioned, not optimal. Our first conversation was on Monday. He emailed me on Friday, and then we set up a call for Monday. Tomorrow is day 20 of the legislative calendar. The last day of the session is March 30th, and Mr. Mayor, you are correct. This would need to be local legislation, and we would have until day 35 to the last possible day that it could go. But here's the bigger question and challenge, and I think we've faced a similar challenge in this. We're going to want to know how the people that we represent feel about this. And to do that, we're going to have some data, we're going to have some understanding in terms of the impacts, and we're going to have community engagement similar to this, with an opportunity to comment and listen to the will of the community. I am happy to have meetings and get that going. I just don't know if we can get all that done because I know you all will want to very much listen to the existing residents of Chamblee. I care about that too because I represent a great deal of Chamblee, but also the unincorporated area where I reside. We need to get their input too. I've received very little so far in terms of emails and communication, but I am going to tally that as I've done in the past to try to get a sense. But I understand the pressures in terms of the other annexations, but the calendar, it's going to be it's not impossible, but it's going to be very, very tough to do it this year.
Appreciate you being here. Hold on, before you go away, I wonder if I can keep you up there for just a moment. Sure. First of all, are there any other elected officials that I have failed to recognize? What a faux pas. I'm glad I didn't say anything just awfully bad about our state representative.
I'm used to it.
Usually something would come out. Good thing Trey was here videoing, so I didn't. Maybe you'd watch it. No, we appreciate you being here. I want to add, Scott, and I appreciate your willingness to want to do this. And you and I have had some of these conversations in times past. Fill you in just very briefly on some of the efforts that have been going on with the DeKalb Municipal Association. And one of the things I've heard over and over again from the General Assembly when we're down there talking about annexations and municipalizations is there needs to be more of a clear path forward on where we're going with this, and it can't just be kind of ad hoc here and there. And I absolutely agree with that. There have been conversations. I know that our city managers are discussing in this area what makes sense. I firmly believe, of course, I put my city glasses on and all that, but the county would be far better off if we were all municipalized. You lit those municipal services to the cities and then other services that the county traditionally handles, much like that they have done in Fulton County. I think Fulton County has shown with their negotiations on the recent SPLOST and figuring out how to get that across the finish line and being successful with it has a lot to do with a lot of cooperation that goes on. Having said that, again, I just would want to brief you in front of everybody that we've had those conversations. Unfortunately, we have not gotten as much traction as I would like to by this time. It would have been nice to have had some traction and have some of this other stuff done in the past year. There seems to be, everybody's got everything else going on, and it seems to be something that most cities seem to be more reactionary to than they are out there looking to just annex anything. You know, I say all the time, this group, our city, as far as I've been involved, we've done 2 of the largest annexations probably in DeKalb County history, and never once has anybody here gone out and sought to annex anything. So would welcome you, and we could try to set something up. I know Dorville has some islands, and I'm sure you've talked with them that they'd like to close up. They're not islands as you know per se, but and make sure that we're not creating that and doing something that's very if in fact it is going to municipalize, if it's a new city, if it's annexation, whatever it looks like, be happy to help facilitate some of those and be glad to pull you in on those meetings. Thank you. Very good. So you had one more question?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the timing of it, and it's for Mr. Oslett. The concern that you voiced is that you don't think this is viable without the commercial properties, and obviously they don't do it.
Well, I mean, that, honestly, that...
Give me one more second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In that light, if you had the consent of the commercial properties, and this is something that, that was of interest to them as well, then I don't see a reason why we couldn't table this if they were committed not to annexing into Tucker until this is resolved. So, do you have the consent of any of the commercial property owners at the border, or is this something that was done without conversations with them?
I couldn't really get the last part of the question.
Do you have the buy-in?
Have you spoken with the commercial property owners that you're fearful are going to annex into Tucker before you would have an opportunity to bring your neighborhood into a city?
I know there's been a few conversations. We haven't blanketed the area. Tucker has. They've been having walking tours, going in and speaking to all their officials have been going in and speaking to a lot of the businesses. And I'm not really sure why they're annexing into Tucker. I mean, they don't have the services. I think the number one service that would be the most beneficial to the businesses in North Lake would be the development, would be police services, planning and zoning. There really isn't with the exception of the North Lake Community Improvement District, there's really no development plan for the area. So we haven't had, bless you, we have not had extensive, conversations. Again, this was, we started this, late last year, December, to try to get this, to this point and to get support from our community. And we haven't spoken to a lot of the businesses.
See, it does seem like if you have their support, that buys you a year to really work through the details and hold those forums that are so critical to the process.
It would be helpful, and like I said, I'm more than happy to help facilitate conversations. I was most recently the chairman of the policy committee for DMA. I'm no longer the chairman of the policy committee. The policy committee is basically made up of the mayors, city managers sitting in on some of those meetings. But more than happy to talk with the policy committee chair, get Representative Holcomb and other representatives that either represent the area or really have genuine concern or interest in what municipalization or annexation looks like for DeKalb County. Because I firmly believe it's going to happen one way or another, and it could happen proactively or happen reactively. And anytime it happens reactively, it's not a good thing. Well, I take that back. I think the Deccan neighborhoods and the Huntley Hills, Gainesboro neighborhoods were reactions to other cities' grading, and they actually turned out really, really well. So, but still, it's better to be proactive.
Sure.
So I'd be more than happy to help pull that together. I don't know that it's proper for anybody here. I do know that Tucker is knocking on doors over there. You know, I know Mayor Allman and I think all of his council get along just fine. I've heard from them, and in the meetings we've had at DMA, they talk about proactively going out and talking to folks about annexing into their city. You know, Chamblee's not done that. That's not something that this group has ever done. I think it's something that might be beneficial and more appropriate for you to do. And I said, I'm more than happy to help pull together folks from Tucker, from Doraville, because they need to be in this conversation, and help move the conversation forward.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Scott, thank you so much for being here, bud, and thank you for your service. I really appreciate it. It was invaluable having you here. Don't hide in the back, though, man. Come sit up front.
If I may.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no.
Two quick
Yeah.
echoing comments. While you're correct that legislation could move without your all's support and approval, practically speaking, I don't see that happening.
I didn't think you do that.
And then there is a lot of enthusiasm at the General Assembly for trying to come up with macro ways to address the gaps in unincorporated DeKalb. So to the extent that we can have collaboration, it's very constructive. And so to the extent that that can be fostered and promoted, I think that would help us navigate.
I appreciate you continuing. I keep hearing that. You're very consistent with that, and I think we'd all like to see that.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Mr. Osler, are you going to be able to stick around?
Yes.
Yeah, I would encourage y'all to, hopefully the agenda's not that thick. Hopefully y'all can stick around, or if not, feel like stepping outside.
No, we'll be happy to stay.
Thank you.
Get around and talk with each other. Glad you're all here. And again, it's always great to have our state representative, one of our state representatives here visiting with us.